to show the steps and add notes. I'm going to go through each type of question. When it opens, guys, it'll just regenerate. It's going to probably stay in the same order. Start with fractions, go to equations. Guys, it'll stay the same format, but it'll probably change the numbers. So if you need the hint or the way to solve it that I'm going to remind you of, you can write it on the packet and use it on your test when it opens. Yes.
Can I go get my stick real quick?
Yeah. Okay, so if it's like if the denominator is the same, you just add straight across for something like number 1. So you keep the same bottom number only if the numbers are the same here, and just add. So this is just 5, 6. Now it's when it's different. I guess a hint or a method you could use is the bow tie method. I'll put when the denominators are different. The way the bow tie method works is you go straight across and multiply those numbers. So 5 times 8, that'll give you 40. Then from 8, you multiply up across to the 4. That's going to give me 32. And then from 5, I multiply up to the 3. That gives me 15. This little design here in between, it's like kind of like cross multiplying, makes like a little bow tie. So now all I have to do is simplify this by adding, now that I have my like denominators, I can add the numbers on top, keep the 40 on the bottom. This is going to give me 47. And then we simplify if possible.
This is Mrs. Griffin. I am missing a class calculator. Whoever has Mrs. Griffin's class calculator, number 20, please return it. Thank you.
She airing you out.
Who has it? You have it? Yes.
I knew.
Now, on our calculators, just to recap, the calculator does reduce for you. If you know how to go to get to the calculator box, the fraction box, you had to hit alpha, y equals, and then enter, and now you have your fraction boxes. And then you put 47 at the top, 40 at the bottom, hit enter, and it will reduce it for you. This does not get reduced, so that is your final answer. Any calculator tricks, I can't tell you on the exam. But on your exam, it will say put answer in simplified form or simplest form. So use the calculator trick to make sure you're reducing all the way. And there it is. It says answers right here, simplest form. So this would have been our final answer. You're going to have a couple proportions or solving for x, which is a 1-step equation, and some 2 to 3 steps. There's 2 ways you can do this. Just get rid of the fraction by doing the reciprocal. That would be a -3/2 on both sides. That gets rid of this fraction. Now my x is by itself. I'm just going to come to the side here. So this would be a -30/2 equals x, and this can be simplified to just -15. Or you can change the problem. We had 10 equals a -2/3 x to a proportion. Just put your whole number over 1. Think of your x here as on the top with the 2, and then cross multiply. 1 times any number just stays the same. So we have -2x equals 30, and then you just divide by -2. That's a -2, sorry. And you get -15. You get the same answer. So I don't care about the method. It's just get to the answer. Show how you use your method to get to the answer. So you're going to have one fraction equation or proportion, and then you're going to have a distributing to solve. So you need to be able to show that you can multiply the number outside the parentheses to inside. Make sure you watch your signs because it's -9, that -2. So this actually comes out to be -9u plus 18 equals 5u minus 10. Caleb, we're going over the review packet because the review when it opens is going to be in the same format, just regenerating the questions. All right, to solve for the variable, you should start with the smallest variable, which is this -9u. So just do the opposite, add the 9u to each side. You get 18 equals 14u minus 10. Then isolate your variable term, which is the 14u, by doing the opposite here, by adding 10. So you get 28 equals 14u, and then just divide it by 14. And so u equals 2.
So the first page.
I'm on, well, it's half and half. So yeah, I think I'm on still on the second half right there, where it says question 4, 25. So there's going to be 25 questions and there'll be 4 points each. All right. On question 25, which is actually the pictures on the right side, talk about domain and range. You have to remember the range is the y values. Actually, I could put that on this side. So when you look at the problem, you want to look from low to high. The lowest point on the graph is on the y-axis. So like if I look at this graph right here, here's the y. Oops. There's your y-axis right here. The lowest point on the y-axis is 0. The highest on the y-axis is 800. So your range, and it says as an inequality, low to high, would be 0 is less than equal to y, which is less than equal to 800. Your domain are your x values. So you want to look at the graph as left to right. Here's the x value. So the left of the graph is still, I'm going to erase this part that I have here. The graph still starts, if I go all the way to the left, it still starts right here. Because even though it's at 800, I look down on the x-axis and it starts at 0. And then it stops right here at 8. I'm going left to right. So my domain here would be 0 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 8. You only use these symbols are only used when it is an open circle. So if you have an open circle on your graph, like let's say it was here and then close, then on the open circle you would use the less than without the equal to sign. All right, you are going to have comparing inequalities. This one's real simple. We have the inequality is the y is less than 0. So all we're doing is checking our y values. And is the y value less than 0? -3, this would be yes. 15 here, this would be no. 33, this would be no. -26, this would be yes. All you have to do is compare and click yes or no. Now, if your inequality has an expression, you do have to work it out. But I think these are just comparing yes or no. All right, so for question 27, out of the 25, all they want you to do, you might have to graph it or you have to write it. So you just have to remember your symbols. If it's a closed dot, Closed means you're going to use less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. If it's an open circle or open dot, you're using less than or greater than. So just understand your symbols should go in the same direction as your arrow. Okay, if you're not sure, this one is your less, this one is your greater. Okay, this arrow is pointing like that to the left, so I would be using this symbol, less than. It is closed at 2, so we would just write x is less than or equal to 2. And that would be our inequality for the graph. So on a problem like this, they might ask you to graph it or they might ask you to write it. So just know if it's pointing to the left, it's less than. If it's pointing to the right, it's greater than. And then here, they want you to solve. You solve inequalities just like equations. So you isolate the variable. Since this is a negative 29, we're going to add 29 to both sides. This would give me 20 is greater than or equal to 4x. And then you just have to divide both sides by 4. So 5 is greater than or equal to x. One thing, I didn't divide by negative. Oh, there was a negative. Yeah, sorry. There was a negative right here. So this was negative, negative, negative. So yeah, this sign gets flipped. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't write that negative sign. Right there. So flip if you divide by a negative or multiply by a negative. All right, here they're going to give you a graph. You need to find the slope. You can do it 2 ways. Your slope, you can count your rise over run, or you can use the slope formula, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. To use the formula, you need the points. So like this point right here is the point negative 2, comma 3. And this point over here is negative 4, comma negative 4. So I need the order pair to use this formula. If not, you can go from one point and count how many units you would have to go up first, because it's always rise over run, sorry. So that's going up 7. And then I would go to the right 2. So my rise over run is just 7 over 2. Keep it in fraction form. I'm not sure if it takes off for decimals, but keep it as a ratio. And then also you should be able to recognize it, because if your line is increasing, it's positive. So any line that goes this way is a positive slope, and any line going down would be a negative slope. So just remember those. So you will be given 2 points if you need to label your x1. Why does it keep doing that? There it goes. And y1, x2, and y2. Put it in the formula. So this would end up, don't watch your signs, a negative 2 minus a negative 8. And then this would be 4 minus 9. When you simplify this, this becomes keep, change, or turns into a positive 6 over a negative 5. And that is in simplified form. All right, I gotta go to my next page. Yeah. Okay, here they want you to find the y-intercept and the slope. Well, if it's in slope-intercept form, there's really no work to this. If they give you it in this form, y equals mx plus b, your slope is the m. It's what's in front of the x, and your y-intercept is the b. They might want you to write the slope, the y-intercept as a point. So like this one, kind of think of this like as an invisible 1 there. So the slope is -1 and the b is 5. Just reading the equation. Now, on a problem like 12, because it's in standard form, you need to solve for y first. That means to get the y term by itself. To do that, add your 3x to both sides of the equal sign and rewrite everything. So this becomes -2y equals 3x plus 2. And then just divide everything by the coefficient by that -2. So y equals -3/2x plus 1. And now I can see that my slope is -3/2. And the b, the y-intercept, is 1. They're going to ask you to find the slope of a graph below or write the equation of the graph below. Again, you can count your rise over run. If I start from this point, I would have to count down. Down 3 would be a -3, and then to the right, 4. So this slope would be a -3/4. If they ask for the equation, that's when I put y equals mx plus b. I just need to find the b, which is the point where it crosses the y-axis. So that one's not an exact point, so you would have to work backwards using point slope form or solving for b. So like if I know that this point is a -3, -1, which is my x and y, I can say, oh, -1 equals my -3/4, parentheses -3 plus b. I don't think they're going to ask you to do that. They're just going to ask either for the slope or for the equation in slope-intercept form. All right, so on the next set, inequalities, again, open and close still remains, but also if you have a dashed line, that's going to be less than or greater than. I need that comma. If you have a solid line, that's less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. As for the shading, if you shade below the line, that's less than or equal to. If you shade above, that's greater than or equal to. So to write the inequality, you want to write it so that it is in y equals mx plus b form. So start off finding your m, counting your rise over run. I can go from this point, which is -2, 2, count down 1, 2, oops, that's 2. That's a -4, and then over 2. So my m is -4/2, which is just -2. You can physically see, and I don't want to mess up that open dot right there. You can physically see the y-intercept. It crosses the y right here. That's the y-intercept at a -2. And this is shading below. So our equation would be y is less than because it's shading to the left. Negative 2x minus 2. They want you to find the slopes of parallel and perpendicular lines from slope-intercept form. Just have to remember, if it's parallel, it's the same slope as the equation. If it's perpendicular, it's an opposite reciprocal or negative reciprocal. I'm just going to abbreviate that. Meaning you have to flip the number and change the sign. So for the parallel right here, this first one, the slope is 1. So it would be the same, 1. For the perpendicular, that's the symbol for perpendicular. You would have to flip that 1. So if I have 1, which is 101, and flip it, it's still 1, but change the sign. So this one would just be negative 1. Because even if I flip the numbers around, I still get 1 over 1, but I just have to now make it a negative. The problem is, on the second type, you have to be able to solve for y. So I know this is definitely going to happen when it's in standard form. So you first need to subtract your x. This would end up giving you 6y is equal to negative x minus 5. Then you need to divide each term by that 6. So y equals negative 1/6x minus 5 over 6. It's okay if the y-intercept's a fraction, because we're just focusing with that number. So the perpendicular slope, the answer to number 1, our perpendicular, is flipping that number and changing the sign. So this would be just 6, because when I flip it, I would get 6 over 1. So we can just keep it as 6. The parallel slope is the same answer as that slope that we have here. That's just a negative 1/6. So you have to have it in slope-intercept form to read off the slopes. Make sure the equation's solving for y. And then if we're solving by substitution, you can refer back to your flip book if you need to, but it needs to have a variable isolated. X is the isolated variable. This is what it equals. I circle what it equals, and now I'm going to plug it in to the first equation. Any plugging in, you need to use parentheses. So when I write this, this would be 5 parentheses, what I circle, which is 3y minus 7, close that parentheses, plus 3y equals negative 17. We're going to solve for y. So when you do that, you get 15y minus 35 plus 3y equals negative 17. Combine your like terms, the 15y and 3y is going to give you 18y minus that 35 equals negative 17. But now you have to isolate that y. So you have to add 35 to both sides. I'm going to come to the side over here. Your 18y is going to equal to, what is it, 18? And then just divide by 18, so y is 1. So all I have to do to get, I know the y here is 1. To get my x, I just got to plug that back in. So that's saying 3 times 1 minus 7. So my x comes out to be negative 4. So you can write it as an ordered pair if you want to, negative 4, comma 1. So I guess it's on the next page. So here you can solve this system by using elimination because they're lined up. Okay, I would use elimination. Yeah. whenever it's in standard form, which is your AX plus BY equals C, I can see my X's are lined up and my Y's are lined up. But the thing is, they're not opposite each other. I can't eliminate anybody right now. In order to eliminate, I have to multiply the bottom equation by 3 to make it a -9. Opposite of that -9 to make it +9. So this becomes 9x plus 12y equals 63. Now I can eliminate the x's by adding them. 17y plus 12y is going to give me 19y. That's a y, sorry. And -6 plus 63 is going to give me a positive, what is that, 53? No, that's wrong. I'll do that, sorry. Oh, what did I do? Hold on. Go back. Then we're just going to divide by the 19 and y equals 3. So to get the x, you just need to plug it back into one of the equations. It doesn't matter which one you plug it back into. So 3x plus 12 equals 21. If I subtract that 12, we get 3x equals 9. So x is 3. So when they give you this format, this is when you have to plug in the order pair right here, if you get a solution. So like for this first one, the y's are not opposite, so I'm just going to multiply by a negative, just change everything negative. And when I do, the y's cancel. I'm left with x here, and I'm left here. 9 plus a -5 is going to give me 4. So this is going to have an order pair of 4, comma. So then we just got to plug it back in to get the y. So to plug it back in, I'm just going to say, well, 4 times x, which is 4, plus 7y equals 9. Well, that's 16. So my 7y equals, if I subtract 16, a -7, which means my y is going to be a -1. Now, if here you add them and everything cancels, so these both cancel, that's 0. But when you add 4 and 5, that gives you 9. This is a false statement. 0 cannot equal 9. When it's false, it's going to have no solution. If you get a true statement, let's say if it's true, for example, let's say you get 0 equals 0, then you would put infinite solutions, or all real numbers. Then the last part is just going to be simplifying expressions using the distributive property and combining like terms. So here, just distribute your -9 to each term. This is going to give you a positive 18 y squared, -54, and then positive 9x cubed. You cannot combine these. They're not like terms because we don't have the same variable, same letter. So think of if there's just a negative sign as that a visible -1 that you need to distribute. So negative v minus 1 minus 6. But now you can combine like terms. CLT. Combine like terms will make this answer be negative v minus 7. And then the last couple are combining like terms, or simplifying means you're going to combine. Anytime they do this, combine like terms. Or CLT. So we have basically 9 view minus 1 view, just going to give you 8u. Watch your signs. It's like -8. This is going to be a -4. See. Oh, and the last one is missing. I have no idea what it was. I think it was distributing. All right, so don't worry about the last one on here because it didn't print. Here, to evaluate the expression, the last thing here, you need to plug it in and solve. So we're going to plug in the 21 for the G and the 9 for the H. So this becomes 21 plus 72 over 9. You can simplify 72 over 9 because 9 can go into 72. Is that right? And then combine, because they want you to evaluate, means they want you to get to a numerical final answer. So this would just be 29. All right, so I will let the exam open early. I'll probably put if you have finished all tests, and then you can use this on the exam. If you still have to finish that test, that has to get done. That's part of your last major grade.